Welcome to WCBC's Candidate Forum for those seeking election to the Allegany County Board of Commissioners. There will be a total of 6 names on the ballot for Allegany County Commissioner, 3 Republicans, 2 from the Green Party, and Democrat Darrell Lee Powell. Mr. Powell is not here for the forum and has declined to make a formal statement. However, we understand that after he filed for office, he obtained a job which by contract does not allow him to campaign for office or support any candidate for office. As you may suspect, that has extremely limited his ability to engage with voters. Our goal tonight is to let you know more about each of our candidates. While we aim to be fair, our overriding interest is for each of the candidates to be able to communicate their positions on the key issues facing Allegany County. With that in mind, each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each of the questions. If a candidate who has already answered is challenged by another candidate as to his or her answer, he or she will be given a 30-second rebuttal. WCBC General Manager Mary Kleitz will be taking care of timing duties. She will show a red card with 30 seconds to go and ring the bell at the end of time. Our panelists tonight, WCBC News Director Brian Gowans and Greg Larry from the Cumberland Times-News. The Republican Party candidates were able to participate in the June primary election and forum. Members of the Green Party did not have that opportunity. In that this is an effort to educate the voters, I'd like to start the forum by asking the Green Party candidates to give us a brief overview of what the Green Party stands for and why they are representing that party. And we'll go to Michael Leptic first. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Mullins. Thanks to WCBC and thanks to Allegheny College of Maryland for hosting this forum this evening. The Green Party, as you may know, is a third party. It's not the standard party in a two-party system. It's a third party. It's a party that's built on 100% grassroots democracy, which means it's built from the ground up, not from the top down. It focuses on decentralization. It focuses on social equality and social justice. And as a party, we don't accept any money from corporations. So all the money and the donations that we receive are from constituents only. So a lot of people have asked me during this process why I chose the Green Party to run for county commissioner. And I think over the last several years, especially with the 2016 presidential election, we've seen what a fiasco the two-party system can be. So I've taken a different route. I wanted to bring a different perspective to Allegany County. I want to give voters an opportunity to see that there is a change, or there's a difference outside of the usual two-party system. And so far, it has been very receptive for the people that I've talked to. They're seeing beyond the party lines at this point, and I think that's what it's all about, voting for the person rather than the party. And that's one thing that I have put forth during this campaign. Thank you.
Okay, Steve Wallet, let's pass the mic down to Steve.
Well, the only thing I can add to that is why I joined the Green Party. My background is organized labor, and we've always had a close relationship with the Democrats, who always promised us everything and gave us very little. So I was looking for a new vehicle to achieve my desires, what I want to see in politics, and I chose the Green Party.
Okay, thank you. So we have that in the background. You know where they're coming from. And now with our first question for our candidates as a whole, here is Times News government correspondent Greg Larry. Greg?
Thank you, Paul, and good evening. My first question is basically simple, straightforward question. Why are you running for this seat?
We start with Creed Brody, Jr.
Yes, sir. I'm running for the same reason I ran in 2010. I'm opposed to taxes. I'm opposed to large government. I'm opposed with government trying to influence itself in our everyday life and trying to take the decisions away from the people. So far, in the last 8 years, we've been very successful with that. We've shrank county government. We've tried to deregulate. And I see another batch of deregulations in the near future in county government, regardless who's sitting there. Just got to remember, once I get in, I found out a lot of things. County government, especially commissioner, you have very limited power, very limited resources. You get kudos for nothing that goes right, and you get blamed for everything that goes wrong, and that is a fact. So that was why I ran, and so far we've held up our end of the deal. Thank you.
Dave Caporale.
The reason I'm here is probably for the same reasons, most of the things that I've been involved with in the 6 years in office, and I want to see that continue. I think that we do have momentum in the Cumberland area through economic development process, but also in Allegany County as well. I've been here, been doing the work for 6 years, and I want to see it continue. I want to continue as county commissioner.
Michael Leptic. Mike, I know you gave some of that in your Green Party explanation. Go ahead.
I see an area that is depressed. I'm running because I want to bring a different vision to our county, to give it a direction that we haven't seen before. I refer to it as a progressive vision, which is the Green Party is very progressive. I feel that we are at a fork in the road. We have an unemployment rate, average year to date, 6.2%. We have a poverty rate that's 18%. 1 out of 4 children in Allegany County live in poverty. I mean, this county is not financially savvy at this point. We need a new direction. We need to focus on economic development, education, budget reform. Our schools are not funded properly, and they haven't been for a while. And we need to focus on the drug crisis. It continues to get worse. There's no end in sight to the overdoses that we see on a daily basis. And we, quite frankly, we need to try things outside of the box, because what we're doing at this point is not working. And we need a plan, and we need a progressive plan to move us forward. Thank you.
Jake Shade.
Well, I'm running for the same reason I was running last time. You know, I saw that county government as a whole wasn't working the best with other entities. I think that's changed a lot. We have a much better relationship with the Board of Ed, City of Cumberland, Frostburg, some of the other municipalities. We work very closely with the governor's office. Obviously, Governor Hogan being in office has helped a lot. But this area has so much potential, and I feel like a lot of times we just get put behind the 8 ball, and there's so much internal fighting, and we keep switching it up of what our priorities are or what we're going to do or not do or anything. So being able to have one united vision is something that I want to contribute to, trying to get all of our elected officials on the same page. And when you're able to do that, you're able to put together big projects, whether it's Allegany High School or coming together to work to reopen the downtown mall, or doing big economic development projects such as Rolling Mill. You know, that's just a start. But all of these things require a lot of collaboration across different entities of government. And it's not so much a ideological, conservative, liberal type thing. It's are you going to work to change what's going on here? Are we going to continue how we've been going the past 30 or 40 years or so? There's a lot of good things going on, so we can't fall into that trap of nothing ever is going to change, because you do have to continue to push. And I think when you become complacent, you need to kind of hand over the reins to someone else. Thank you.
Steve Wallet.
Well, I got started when I moved up here about 5 or 6 years ago and looked around and saw all the poverty. And what I saw was there's 18% poverty rate, 24.7 child poverty rate, and a 9% senior poverty rate. And I'd like to do something about that. And I think one of the first things we got to do is bring in good paying jobs with benefits and stop bringing in just service jobs and low paying jobs with no benefits. And I'd like to get together with our congressional delegation to see if we can bring some federal jobs out here, maybe get the MARC train to come to Cumberland, and just expand economically, but with good jobs in mind and not just service entry.
Steve, you said you moved here 5 or 6 years ago. Where'd you move here from?
I moved here from Baltimore.
Okay, thank you.
But I've been up here 30 years. I've had a house and 16 acres for 30 years. So I'm up here whenever I was laid off from construction, I was up here.
Okay, very good. Brian Gowans has our next question, and to answer it first will be Dave Caporale.
Thank you, Paul. In the past few years, for the most part, the county has allocated maintenance of effort level funding, or what some call the minimum level the county is permitted to provide for the local school system, not including the capital dollars you guys put forward for the new Allegany High School. Do you feel the commissioners have adequately funded education?
Dave Caporale.
I do. I would like to see us continue to try to fund education more and more. I think the last time we were here, I said that we don't want to view education as a cost as opposed to an investment. I really think a lot of the things you hear these days is workforce and workforce development. And what we've done over the past couple of years with our economic development department is work closely with Allegany College and Frostburg State University. We need to be able to fill these ATK jobs, IBM jobs, American Woodmark, be it with internships through the high school level or college level. The jobs are out there, but what happens as a result of that is a plan that works. And what we end up doing is you're really rebuilding your tax base at the same time when these people stay here and reside in Allegany County.
Michael Leptic.
I can truthfully say that from the people that I've spoken to on the campaign trail, education is not funded properly, and it hasn't been for a long time. And I know that the maintenance of effort is an issue, which in some aspect it's probably good that it's in place, so there's a minimum, but we need to fund well over the maintenance of effort. The educators that I have spoken to along the way have said they have the finances that the schools have to fund certain programs aren't there. They don't have the proper supplies. They don't have the proper accommodations to really effectively execute the curriculum. We can do better at education. It needs to be funded a lot better than what it is, and that includes school security, and just to overall build the education to where it was 10, 15 years ago, because it's not there right now. Thank you.
Jake Shade.
Well, I think it just depends who you ask is adequate. You know, there's a lot of groups and entities that no matter how much you give, they always need more. So what we've done over the past 4 years, 3.5 years, the Board of Ed is getting about $1 million more than they were 4 years ago, and that's an all-time high. The maintenance of effort, we actually went above it by about $40,000 this year. And year to year, that number stayed exactly flat. So we funded above the formula without increasing funding. So it just goes to show how outdated maintenance of effort is. It shouldn't be a measuring stick in terms of what you're funding, because it works well, but when you start losing student population, that's kind of where you can see the cracks in the bad part about that formula. I think we need to keep working on things that are outside of maintenance of effort that we can do one-time costs. Certainly things like the furnishings at New Allegheny, that came through the Rocky Gap Casino funds. Obviously, Allegheny High School was $13.2 million from the county. And then the other thing we can certainly look at is health insurance costs, because that's a huge driver for every government entity and all businesses, really. If there was a way that we could combine some of our health insurance costs into a bigger pool, I think that would definitely be something that could help the board. The other thing to keep in mind is our contribution is less than 30% of the total Board of Ed budget. So even though we're funding our piece and maybe we go up $1 million, a lot of that is still coming from the state, and it takes a lot more to trickle down through the Board of Ed bureaucracy over on Washington Street before it gets to the teachers. So just keep that in mind. Thank you.
Steve Wallet.
Well, I'd like to see more money go to the schools, and I'd like to see some after-school programs. Not all children are jocks and get involved in sports, and I'd like to see some science programs, some tech programs after school to get the children interested in other fields. And when they were talking about workforce development, that's a good idea, but it doesn't really help the poor because they can't afford transportation, they can't afford daycare, they can't get to the jobs, and you have to look at it broadly, not just workforce development. You have to look for the issues that keep these people from getting into workforce development.
Creed Brody.
Yes. I'm going to say it doesn't matter who sits up here. For the next several years, it's going to have to be maintenance of effort or flat funding. One thing everyone's got to remember, such as Commissioner Shade hit on, not only do we pay for the new high schools and stuff, we pay their bills. We pay all their capital improvement projects, whether it's roofs, parking lots, anything major that the Boards of Education spends money on, they spend our money. And that's outside of maintenance of effort, such as the $1 million that was set back for the furnishings of the new Allegany High School. So the only other way to change that, because I'm glad he also hit on that, is we fund about 27% of their total budget. The rest of it does come from the state. So we send out 38,000 tax bills a year, Allegany County does. We collect about $44 million in property taxes. Board of Education gets $31 million of that. So if you want to know how you up the ante on that, just everyone, the only thing you got to do is just look at your tax bill and hang on, because that's where the money will come from. Thank you.
All right, with our next question, Greg Larry from the Times News.
Thank you, Paul. Gentlemen, I'd like to get your thoughts on the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad. They received tax support, state and county tax support. They've spent an awful lot of money rehabilitating the steam engine 1309. Should there be more governmental oversight, or should the operation possibly be privatized, or do you support the current direction of the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad?
First to answer this time around will be Michael Leptic.
As far as the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad, I think it should be privatized at this point. I think there has been a lot of money going into it from the government standpoint. And I know that there were issues and controversies surrounding the engine that was reconstructed not too long ago. I do think that the issue would be set aside if it was privatized. And I think that the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad is it's great for the county. It brings in a lot of people from elsewhere, and it does bring revenue here. So I think it should not dissolve, but I do believe it should be privatized.
Jake Shade.
Well, that's the key piece of it, is the management and the sustainability of it, because I think everyone here up here wants it to continue, but when every few years they need hundreds of thousands of dollars from the state of Maryland, that affects what else gets money, you know, when that's getting put in the state's budget. So we do have to be very careful. I think that they undertook this on the steam engine. Looking back, obviously, I don't think they would do it again. But here we are, and you know, it's millions of dollars that they've spent on this, and it's still not complete. So in terms of the county involvement, we have about $140,000 a year in that. Obviously, we've done the auditing. We've tried to get reports, and we've tried to see what they're actually spending money on. And so they're a big operation. They end up selling about 30-some thousand tickets a year. I think their total budget is north of $2 million. So they are a big entity. They do bring tourists here, but we have to make sure they're sustainable. So if there was a group that would be interested in taking them private, that would certainly be something I would be interested in, as long as they could keep it sustainable and they think they could run it. Thank you.
Steve Wallet.
Well, I think I'd like to see it privatized. I'd like to see it expanded in between running the tourist train, look at possibly running a passenger service between Cumberland and Frostburg for people to get to work. I think, you know, I'd want to do a study on that, see if it was feasible, but that's what I'm thinking about it right now.
Okay. Creed Brody.
Yes. The Scenic Railroad, you got to remember, is governed by its own board. It controls its own destiny. Allegany County does put $140,000 a year into it. That was the original reason that the hotel-motel tax was put in place in Allegany County for Frostburg, the county, and Cumberland. All three entities was to have a share in that. Right now, Allegany County is carrying that. We just recently put $1 million in the slide up there on the tracks and on the trail. Part of the reason it can never be 100% privatized is the trail is on the Scenic Railroad's property or vice versa. That property belongs to the county, will always belong to the county, can never be sold or transferred. Now, there is some people in the works right now actually talking with looking at operating it outside on the private side. But as far as the transfer of property itself, it can never, ever, ever be privatized. Thank you.
Dave Caporale.
Well, that answers that. No, I certainly feel that the railroad is an asset to the area, and it's a huge draw for downtown Cumberland. However, it has not been self-sufficient. But however, if privatized, I don't think that it would have made it this long as it has so far. I think it's one of those entities that may never be able to be self-sufficient, but I think that we need to get it as close to being self-sufficient as possible to continue.
All right, thank you. With our next question will be Brian Gowans.
Although the West Side bridges, the Green Street overpass, and the Baltimore Street Bridge are all concerns for the city of Cumberland, other than attempting to secure federal funding for some of those projects, are there any other actions the county can take to help out?
Answering first will be Jake Shade.
Well, we can provide some engineering support. Obviously, we've sat in some of the meetings that Cumberland has had, and we're happy to have as much involvement as they wish. You know, they are in the lead on this. You know, as a resident of Cumberland, it affects me. It frustrates me. I think that it's completely unacceptable. I don't think that CSX really cares one way or another what happens. That they don't seem to care about the safety of the residents in West Side. And so it's a very difficult situation. I wish that some of our federal partners were more involved in this, but unfortunately it seems like it's just kind of us against CSX whenever they want to listen to us. So we're going to keep putting the funding together. $5.2 million that we had kind of earmarked for anything. Those are federal funds. That covers 80% of the match. The city's going to use that for Baltimore Street and Cumberland Street. And then there's talks about the other ones. We can access more of that money if need be when other projects don't go through. So that's kind of where we're taking it right now. Thanks.
Steve Wallet.
Well, I'm for supporting them as much as we can and give them all the support we can, but this isn't an issue here. This is an issue all over the country with CSX. They just did the same thing to Baltimore, where they were supposed to pay 1/3 of repairing the tunnel that runs under Baltimore City and backed out. And they had an agreement with the city and the state. And I think the only thing they're interested in is the bottom line. They're laying people off, and they'd rather spend $1 million fighting us in court than spend $500,000 making repairs.
Thank you. Creed Brody.
Yes, such as Jake said, we have been very supportive. The first thing we did was we allocated our federal bridge money ahead to them. We got together early, and since all three commissioners are here tonight, because Commissioner Valentine's in the audience, and he can speak to this also. Jake agreed to take the lead on this. We said, whatever we need to do, we can help, and he's sat through every meeting that he's possibly could sit through on this. So I'm not really sure what more the county can do. I know I got something said about that the last time that I said that we'd be supportive of the city, that the city was county residents too. Absolutely, they sure are. But they pay a tax differential too for services the city provide that the county does not. So for us to forego our $5 million worth of bridge money to go to Baltimore Street when Cumberland had that same opportunity 4 years ago and didn't take it up, that was a lot of money to go. And luckily we had a coal haul tax to backfill in to take care of our bridges so we could forward that money to them. So thank you.
Dave Caporale.
I also wish that some of our more of our federal officials could have been more involved in this issue. You know, it's been ongoing, and it's been a fight since the beginning. Short of going to a major lawsuit, this is where we are right now. As far as the county helping more, I agree with what Jake said, possibility of more maintenance, inspections, maybe even eventually design and some funding, but I think the ultimate decision has to be made over the next couple weeks here and have a contract in place.
Michael Leptic.
It's no secret that the infrastructure in the entire Allegheny County is failing, including the bridges that are being discussed. I do agree with Commissioner Shade. It is unacceptable. It's unacceptable that CSX is not taking a stand on the issues that are surrounding these bridges, especially with the last accident that occurred there. It needs to be resolved. I mean, we're well past a year on some of these issues, and we're still up against the wall. I mean, people want their bridges reopened. It's really affecting EMS. It's affecting residents, visitors. It's unacceptable, and it needs to be resolved. And whatever the county can do to help that along, I think we need to be in support of that. Thank you.
With our next question, Greg Larry from the Times News. Greg?
Thank you, Paul. My question is in regard to economic development and growth in the area. Every candidate for office, it seems, makes a pledge to bring new business to the area and create new jobs. What types of businesses would be a good fit for our area? And what actions would you as a commissioner advocate in order to improve the business climate and to achieve those goals of more business and more jobs?
Steve Wallet will go first on this one.
I'd like to bring in some tech jobs and some maybe solar panel jobs. And I would have to take a good look at our regulations to see how our regulations are hurting business and hurting investment in here. I've also just recently found out that Kuwait is investing money in local areas in the United States. And I would contact them to see if we can get some investment here.
Okay. Creed Brody.
Yeah, this is actually a real hard nut to crack, because that's what you hear all the time is well, I would do this and I would do that and I'd go after this. 8 years ago, we decided to go after anything that could pay taxes or build a tax base or hire employees, and that's what we've done. In the last 8 years, there has been 2,000 new jobs put into this area and $70 million worth of tax base increase. We're constantly looking. We got a whole department of people that's what they do. We have sent letters, and I'm not going to steal this from Jake because he was ahead of part of that, to everybody up and down the eastern seaboard of the United States. We've reached clear out to the Midwest, out to the West Coast. We'll get anybody and everybody we can. We show ourselves as much as we can. But we are fighting for something that everybody in this country is fighting for. There is no large manufacturing left in this country. It's all went to China. Go to a store now and find something that's made here. Everybody in this room is carrying a cell phone. There's not a cell phone in this country made here, not one. We just hit on a pretty good thing. We're going to partner up with Frostburg State, and I don't want to let the cat out of the bag too much on this, because I worked with a whole bunch of people on this, on the autonomous vehicle that's coming. And again, I really can't talk about that a whole lot right now, but there is a lot of good things happening in this county, and to hear people say that it's not, or hear the naysayers, that really bothers me, because when you got jobs that's not being filled and good jobs, that also shines on our record moving forward of trying to attract somebody here.
Creed, I want to follow up a second. How much is the county effort thwarted by Maryland regulation and tax rate and things like that?
Depends on what the company is that's coming here. Corporate tax rate is a killer. Personal property tax rate is a killer. Now, if depends on what the company is. If you can get DBED involved, if it's larger than 50, there's a tax incentive for them. We start our tax incentive at the county at 10 employees. DBED's at 50. As it grows bigger, grows up the ladder, the incentive package grows bigger. Regulations in Maryland is extremely hard, opposed to Virginia, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia. So, and when you're sitting here and you're in certain parts of the county, you're 4 miles to a different state and different counties, that makes it extremely difficult for us to sell ourselves. Thank you.
Dave Caporale.
The city of Cumberland has attained the first biotech firm in the county. We did that by utilizing tax credits available through the state. What we are currently trying to do is expand on that process and duplicate that process. There are also tax credits available for cybersecurity and manufacturing. We are currently in talks with a second biotech firm within the city of Cumberland. I'm also like to cite the new economic plan coming out at the county. When we did ours at the city, it gave us a very clear direction, a new direction. It helped us target areas and target new businesses and industries to look forward to.
Michael Leptic.
It's great to hear about, biotech firms that are wanting to relocate to Cumberland and the county as a whole. I mean, that's what we need. We need opportunities for people to stay in this area, to relocate to this area. And that's not what we're seeing right now. And we can focus on obtaining manufacturing jobs. We can focus on renewable energy. That's really significant at this point. The county may have added 2,000 jobs, but the top 3 employers in this county, healthcare, the industries in this county, healthcare, education, and service industry jobs. Service industry is great. I used to work in service, but that's not going to sustain an economic future here in the county. I mean, it's just not going to do it. I mean, people are relocating from our area. The population has declined nearly 4.2% since 2010. People aren't relocating here. I mean, people are traveling outside of the county for work. And I understand there are people traveling inside the county for work as well. But we are not providing an opportunity for people to relocate here. There's just no incentive, which is what we need to do. We need to figure out a plan to put forth and to change that for the future. Thank you.
Jake Shade.
Well, I think one of the big differences between 4 years ago and today, economic development was kind of pie in the sky, and now it's you better have some specifics of what you want to do, what you'd like to see done. On the government side, I think you have 2 main roles, at least here in Allegany County. It's to try to keep the local government running, functioning well, and then it's to be the biggest promoter you can of Allegany County, and that's internally, and externally, selling it to other people. So things that we have done, and I think that the other piece of this is the government doesn't create jobs. We can do whatever we want, but we need to try to create an environment that businesses want to locate here, people want to live here. And a lot of it's not so much getting people to relocate here, but it's keeping the people we have that allows an economy locally that they can stay here if they want to stay here. So some of the things we've done, economic development plan, that's a huge one. That'll be done in early February. That's going to have actual goals and metrics that we're going to be able to kind of see, is what we're doing working, or should we start over? It's kind of the one department that it's hard to measure in terms of if the staff and if the people working there are doing a good job or not. The other thing that we've done, we've hired a group out of Annapolis to represent us across the country at actually 6 trade shows a year. They're going to do the external economic development. It gives us someone in the DC, Baltimore area that's really on the ground that can send us leads all the time, and that's already yielding results. So part of it's process, working together with localities better so we can do bigger projects, but the other part is creating an image and a self-sustaining model. Thank you.
Very good. We're going to take a break, our first break, and everyone has had a chance to go first answering a question. We'll come back with our forum here on the Allegany County Commissioners, live from Allegany College of Maryland on 1270 AM, 103.1 FM, WCBCradio.com, and with our friends at Allegany Media through our WCBC Facebook page. We'll be back after this. we're going to reverse order this time. We'll start with Steve and go this way. And then as we get to the last part of it, we'll skip around a little bit so everybody has a chance to. And welcome back. We are doing our County Commissioner Forum tonight for Allegheny County here on WCBC on AM 1270, FM 103.1, WCBCRadio.com, and also on our Facebook page with our friends from Allegany Media. We are going to reverse the order of answer this time around, and asking the question will be Brian Gowans.
There are 5 members of the various town and municipal councils in the county and 5 members of the school board. Do you think the Board of Commissioners should be expanded from 3 to 5 to better represent the county?
Yes, I do.
Steve Wallet, go ahead.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Would you like to expand on that?
I think that the more people you have representing you, the better you represent it. And I would like to see it divided up so it's different districts in the county elect a representative and not be countywide. So if you're living, say, in Flintstone, you would have a representative that you would go to that would be representing your district and would be more interested in listening to your concerns.
Okay, very good. Jake Shade?
Well, I think you got to be careful. When you add more people, you can add more drama, and it is more difficult to get things done. I don't really like the idea of districts. I do think it's important that everyone represents the whole county. I do think that's an important feature. No, I don't think we need 2 more commissioners. I just don't see what it would add.
Michael Leptic.
Yes, I do. I believe that I'm a firm proponent of expanding the commission to 5 seats. I think it should have been done a long time ago. I think that we're really missing an opportunity to represent the constituents of the county in a more thorough way. I have spoken to a lot of people along the way that support this type of effort to expand the commission. And just like Steve said, I think that if we would zone the county into several zones and assign a commissioner to that particular zone, the people know who they can report to. People that I've spoken to said that they've communicated with the current commissioners, and nothing against them because they're very busy, but they've failed to return calls and emails and such. I think that would really alleviate a lot of those issues moving forward if they know who to go to and when they can get a hold of that particular commissioner. So again, I do support it, and I think that it's something that would be very beneficial to our area.
Dave Caporale.
I'm also a no on this. I believe that we've had 3 commissioners for all this time, and it's continued to work up till now. As far as districting and stuff like that, I've heard a lot about this over the years, and, at the end of the day, you take an oath to represent everybody. You have the integrity to represent everybody in the county, and that's what I'd like to intend to do as county commissioner.
And Creed Brody.
I'll just keep it simple. My answer to that would be no, and I'm not interested in that. Do not wish or would never vote to make Allegheny County government larger. I know through MACO and our unique friendships with a lot of the counties on the Eastern Shore, two of which I can think of had expanded from 3 to 5 so that the other party have a chance to get in and this and that. And they said once they did that, the county just stopped. Everything just stopped. It's just a constant fight then. There are meetings is a fight. Nothing happens. They said it was the worst decision that they've ever made. And I believe them. So I don't know why we would want to create positions just to do that, just to spend money, I guess, but not interested. Thank you.
Response from Michael Leptic, 30 seconds.
With all due respect, Commissioner Brody, I think that you just hit something on the head there. You said to put additional parties in there. That's what we need to get away from. And we need to focus on electing people based on their vision for the future, not because this person's Republican or this person's Democrat or this person's a Libertarian. We need to focus on putting people in those positions and putting people above party. That's not the attitude to have, and I'm sorry, that's just ridiculous. Thank you.
All right. Response from Dave Caporelli.
That's what we have an election for. That's all I have to say.
Okay. He used 5 of his 30 seconds. All righty. With our next question will be Greg Leary from the Times News. Greg?
Thank you, Paul. Commissioner Bill Valentine is a member of the Kerwin Commission and says there are active proposals that would see teacher compensation increase significantly. Although funding the proposal is yet to be addressed, currently salaries and retirement benefits are part of the annual budget request that the county provides to the school board. From the local perspective, do you support increasing teacher salaries significantly? Also, whether you favor or oppose the increase, if it is mandated by the state, where should the money come from?
Jake Shade, you go first.
That's a good question, and that's the question that every county in the state of Maryland is going to be dealing with. Where does the money come from? I wish that we could provide more funding for a lot of entities. A lot of entities ask for extra money. Unfortunately, it's not there. It's no secret that local and state governments across the country are strapped right now, and there doesn't seem any signs that there's going to be a big windfall of taxes start rushing into to government coffers anytime soon. So obviously the Kerwin Commission is going to do what they're going to do. The Democrats in the legislature are going to do what they're going to do with that report. And then we'll see what ends up happening with the governor and what those recommendations are. Obviously, we're going to keep an eye on it, but right now we kind of have to budget based on what we currently have. And I think that looking forward, we're going to have an honest conversation of, are we going to have to raise taxes to pay for that? I'm a no vote on that 100% of the time. So if you want to raise taxes and pay for extra services, you'll have to vote for someone else. Thank you.
All right, Michael Leptic, you are next.
I know Commissioner Valentine has been very proactive on the Kerwin Commission. I think he's done a very nice job on that commission as well. He's really brought focus to the education here locally, and I think that's very important. And as far as teachers' raises and education funding, I think that education needs to be funded properly. I mean, as far as teachers' raises and this and that, that's going to have to be looked at after we fund education to the point where it's sustainable, and we're building the education here into the point where people are wanting to come to Allegheny County to relocate here because we have an all-star education system. I know we have a lot of quality educators here. I know quite a few of them. We have great administration. I just believe that we need to focus on building the education system to where it needs to be. And Raises, that shouldn't even be the precedent at this point. It should be building the education system and making it the best it can be.
Michael, let me follow up on
Yes.
that quickly.
Yes.
Where would you get the money from? Would you cut services to pay for education if that does come to pass, or would you raise taxes?
Well, raising taxes is never the issue. I mean, that should never be something that's put forth first. I think we have an opportunity to reallocate some casino revenue that is being allocated to certain services that shouldn't, I don't want to say services, but certain areas that can be reallocated into education. I mean, I understand the state provides the county with 3.75% of that revenue. The commissioners have the responsibility of allocating it to the certain divisions. And I think that we need to focus on reallocating it to education at the public level. So that's where a lot of it should be coming from, and not cutting services or raising taxes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dave Caporale.
This has been an ongoing issue, as benefits continue to spiral out of control. I remember a couple years ago that the county did hit, I guess you'd consider a financial wall, and they made significant cuts to make that work. I think you have to be looking ahead at all times, and we have to continue to budget and be fiscally responsible.
All right, Creed Brody.
Kerwin, I have no idea how they think it could be funded. If the state mandates this, then it ought to be a funded mandate, not a county funded mandate. I mean, Thornton was the same issue. It grew legs for a little bit, and then it stopped. I would like to address the Rocky Gap monies just a little bit, because I want to follow up on something. That's 2.75% Allegheny County gets. It's decided by the local development council, not by the commissioners. Again, the only thing we do is appoint some of the council. Some of the council is appointed by the state of Maryland. One of the council members is actually in the room tonight. The only thing we do is either approve or deny that. And I would sure hate to see, because if you're going to take the money, you're going to have to take it from the fire departments. Fire departments are the Opportunity Scholarship, which was put in place to fund higher education, what was in 2012 we was told this county needed. So, Kerwin, if it goes through like it's planned, Allegheny County will be the least of the state's problem, because every county in the state will be bankrupt overnight. Thank you.
All right, we go to the other end of the table, and the last answer on this question, and Steve Wallet. Steve?
Well, it hasn't been passed yet, and if it does pass, I think if it's state mandated, the state should pay for it. They got plenty of money coming in through Lotto and the casinos, and they should draw the money from there. It shouldn't be a burden on the county. And if it does, I think it will bankrupt the county.
All right, very good. By the way, the wife of Britt Kerwin, the head of that commission, passed away this week, and we send along our condolences on the loss of Patty Kerwin. Our next question will be asked by WCBC News Director Brian Gowans. Brian?
Thanks, Paul. Two-part question. President Trump, while was campaigning and since he's been in office, has worked toward revitalizing the coal industry. Is coal still vitally important for the local economy? And a second part of that, how big a blow, if at all, was the fracking ban for the local economy?
And answering first this time around will be Michael Leptic.
At one time in Allegheny County, mining and coal, the coal industry was very, very successful. I mean, I think that it was the backbone of our area for a long time. Currently, there are only 0.07% of jobs that are focused around mining right now in Allegheny County. So that equates about 200 and some jobs. So it may have been a sustainable vehicle at one point in time, but it's not as sustainable as it was 30, 40, 50 years ago. I think the focus has been transitioning to renewable energy. It's something that we need to focus on. I know a lot of, we're hearing all about green this, green that. It's very important. We have an environment that we have to sustain, and just to follow up with the fracking is very adversive to an environment. It's not healthy. It will destroy environment, and I think that the Governor Hogan's ban on that was very correct to do at the point in time. Fracking is something that should be banned nationwide. I mean, it's just not good for an environment. Thank you.
Dave Caporale.
Coal has and continues to play a vital role in this region. I think these days it can be burned a lot more cleanly, so that's why I also support the lifting of some of the regulations going forward. As far as the fracking, I know that we were sort of in the middle of a lot of that controversy. Ultimately, it wasn't a city decision. You know, it was up to the state. The only thing that I wish that it could have been maybe looked at a little bit further and a little bit more in depth. You know, when it comes to some of these issues, you know, we don't always get to choose what opportunities come our way. You know, sometimes there's something that comes along, be it that or other things that we've missed over the years. So all I wanted to do was say that we have a thorough look at it before we kick the can down the road.
Creed Brody.
Yes. I'll speak to the first part of the question, coal and its importance in Allegany County. Wow, I could go on all night about this if you like. Recently, someone told me where they said it equated to 200 and some jobs. Well, when you think that you got Verso up there that fires on coal, you got AES that fires on coal, we got about a $110 million business that operates in Eckerd that depends on coal. Actually, the ancillary numbers of this, because we got in an argument with the state a few years ago when Governor O'Malley and President Obama was trying to shut down the coal industry, and what they did is they artificially shrank the numbers so that it didn't look like it was going to be as big an impact as it was. Actually, the jobs that's affected in Allegany County is 30% of the workforce. It's over 6,000 jobs is directly or indirectly affected by coal, one way or the other. That's fact. As far as what the drilling did when Governor Hogan banned it, you know, and this is where I really get in trouble because Way was going through this, and I don't know why the governor did what he did, because he run in favor of drilling. I was on the environmental subcommittee with state of Maryland. We went all over these sites. They couldn't find nothing wrong with it until I got on the bus and got in an argument with a delegate that I most certainly hope that Delegate Buckle don't have to deal with. It was from Baltimore County. He said, Creed, you're just not understanding why you don't want to frack. And I said, you're right, I don't understand. There's $20 billion worth of gas in the first seam. In the Utica seam, there's trillions of dollars worth of gas and oil. He said, what would that bring to Allegany County? I said, well, it would bring us a future. And he said, what would that bring? I said, well, it would bring us less dependence on the state. And he said, you just don't get it as a commissioner. What would it bring? And I said, well, it would bring prosperity, it would bring jobs. He said, now you're starting to get it because you'd pick up population, you'd pick up seats. We'd lose area to Western Maryland. That's not going to happen. He said, we know this has nothing to do with environment. So if you want to know why Allegany County is getting held back, that is why we're getting held back. That's what this whole band's about. Look to see who funds their elections. So, thank you.
Okay. Steve Wallet.
Well, I'd have to say I'm against the fracking. I've been in other areas of the country and seen the damage it does to the environment and how the people lose their water and their houses and their property because of the damage. And there's people who are going to make a lot of money out of it, and there's people that have no say in it that are going to lose everything. And I'm just against it. I don't see coal as a major industry in this county. Like Michael said, there's only about 200 and some jobs. And where do you see the coal mining going on in this county? Look around. Just don't see it. And I would rather go with green energy. I mean, I look around at what's possible. We have all these flat roofs on government buildings. We could be putting solar panels on there to reduce the costs, clean up the air. We're just not doing things green. We just want to keep doing things the same old way.
Jake Shade.
Well, regardless of whatever you think of President Trump, he has been a friend of the coal industry. The coal industry is coming back. It's stronger than it's been for a long time. Commissioner Brody can attest to this because he lives it every day and he talks to people and knows people directly impacted. You know, to think that we're going to say all of a sudden we don't want this industry anymore, It's completely ludicrous. And you know, these people don't have a say on it. That's exactly right. The people of Allegheny County didn't have a say. The people they put in office all support this. And then you have people from downstate banning it. Pennsylvania does it, West Virginia does it, Ohio does it. I look at it as a missed opportunity. You know, the United States is becoming energy independent. It has lowered its greenhouse gas consumption to 1992 levels. And why is that? That's because of natural gas. That's because of fracking. So the exact same people that keep bashing natural gas, and they keep bashing it, and they oppose pipelines, and they oppose anything that can improve our energy independence, unless it's completely renewable, they're standing in the way of a lot of these projects, and it's so far out of the mainstream. It certainly hurts America's position abroad and our position locally, because that is one of the things we have, our natural resources. And absolutely, since we are in the state of Maryland, we cannot fully use them like we could if we were in Pennsylvania or West Virginia, and it does hurt us.
Jake, let me follow up on that about President Trump. Eventually, could be in 2 years, could be in 6 years, he's not going to be in office anymore.
Absolutely.
So what then? Do you see any other coal champions stepping up and getting elected?
Well, hopefully we don't have someone who is completely adverse to coal, like President Obama was, who's declaring a war on coal. You know, if you can keep the status quo, and the industry itself wants to improve, you know, they want to be good actors. You can go all around Allegany County and find places that were mined 50, 100 years ago, and you would never know it. And so they're putting the land back. This isn't your great-grandfather's kind of mining. This is a high-tech operation, and we should be proud to have it locally.
All right, Michael, you had a follow-up there, 30 seconds.
I mean, we don't want to sustain the status quo. I mean, and one thing is for sure is there is no such thing as clean coal. There's just, it's not even relevant. I mean, that's unbelievable for someone to say that. And as far as fracking, there is a lot of money in fracking, but the negative effects to the environment outweigh those positives. I mean, you have, you know, the gas, the toxic chemicals that are put into the ground and into the water. I mean, it's just not sustainable.
Okay, anybody else? All right, very good. Next question will come from Greg Larry of the Cumberland Times-News.
Thank you, Paul. The city of Cumberland began the process 2 years ago of essentially buying out and demolishing almost 70 properties in the rolling mill area to work toward creating a new commercial development complete with restaurants, a convenience store, hotel, and so forth. Would you support a similar project at the county level, and would you go about doing that project in the same way?
Answering first will be Dave Caporale.
I have been on board with this project since the beginning and still support it. I think a lot of people didn't know in the beginning that we actually owned the city. That is 8 properties within that sector already targeted for blight removal. So this was a blight/commercial development project. It's about reestablishing tax base. You know, we can sit back and hope, you know, another 50 years go by and something happens. Our developer said it best that we went out and created our own opportunity. And I think that's what we have to start doing in Allegany County. We can't just sit back and hope that something's going to happen. We have to make things happen. In this particular sector, we're going to attain 4 times the tax base from this sector alone, but also it's propping up the tax assessable base around it as well. A lot of people don't know, I think about 7 or 8 parcels on the other side of our project have sold for commercial development, so it's sparking private investment at the same time. I think as far as study goes, we're currently looking at a housing study. I think we're behind on housing. How many times have we seen people that have lived in Maryland all their lives, and West Virginia carves out their little niche over there? All these people were Marylanders, live and work at ATK, and reside in West Virginia, because I think we've been missing the boat. We haven't had any updates in any of our neighborhoods in numerous years. So I think there are, be it commercial, community redevelopment, and housing, I think, yes, I would be a supporter of looking at broader projects to move these types of things forward.
Dave, let me follow up on that. Is there any particular part of the county now that you're not just looking at Cumberland and maybe Rolling Mill, is there a part of the county that you would look at to say maybe could be rolling milled?
Rolling Mill too.
Yeah, rolling mill too. Yeah.
I have not. However, I would rely on that coming from the economic study going forward to give us, it did for the city, some of our targeted areas, targeted industry, and what might be a good particular fit for that area, and also tie in with a potential housing study.
Okay. Creed Brody.
Yes, I absolutely do support redevelopment of areas. Or again, we get stuck in the same status quo, and our tax base just dwindles and shrinks away. To obtain it, I wasn't on board with the city, so I wasn't in behind their closed door meetings when they approached us and said, "This is what we're going to do." I said, "Sure, it looks like a good idea." They had everything laid out, so I actually do think what they did was the right way. As far as seeing that out into the county, we still got enough ground around at exit 33, exit 34, a little bit east of Cumberland, that I don't see where we're going to have to target any neighborhoods in the next 30 or 40 years for development. So that's kind of be an unfair question for right now. But as supportive of the city of Cumberland, yes, I was supportive of their project. So.
Okay.
Thank you.
Steve Wallet.
Well, I support it. I just have one objection, and that is using eminent domain to push people out of their houses. I don't think they ever really get the real value of their property. And then they're left looking for a place to live, and that can be difficult. So as long as you're taking blighted properties that aren't occupied by people that own it, then I don't have a problem with it.
To follow up on that a little bit, Cumberland says they are not using eminent domain at this point. So,
The elections aren't over yet.
okay, very good. And next to answer will be Jake Shade.
Well, I've supported the project from the beginning. You know, I guess they could have went about it a different way. I think they might have been able to be a little more open at the very beginning with people and said, look, this neighborhood's not what it was 40 years ago. There's a lot of crime. The property values are very depressed. There's still some homeowners that have been there a long time, and they've kept up their homes, and it's unfortunate to see what's going on. But you're right next to the interstate. It's a prime spot for redevelopment. And it's going to improve Cumberland. It's going to improve the tax base. You're going to see a benefit for everyone in the city by doing that. I think that the deals that the city made, again, like Commissioner Brody, I wasn't involved, but from what I've been told, directly, I think they were making very fair offers on these houses. Apparently, the developer from Frederick has been offering even more money. So I don't think that's what it's about. But in terms of the county doing something similar, I don't think it would be exactly like this project. But in terms of redevelopment and adding to the tax base, absolutely. And so I see us working with Cumberland, working with Frostburg on something similar, but not exact like that.
Michael Leptic.
I don't believe we should be targeting residential areas. I think if we want to develop a specific area, it should be a piece of land that is currently not occupied. But as far as targeting a residential area, I just don't see that as being feasible, especially in the Rolling Mill area. I mean, I've been very vocal about this particular project for almost a year and a half. I mean, we're three years into this project and it's still not completed. And I just think it was executed poorly. I mean, these people, and I've spoken to a lot of them, they just haven't been treated fairly. And I think that's been the issue surrounding that project. I mean, we put millions and millions of dollars. Well, City of Cumberland's put millions of dollars in this project, and it's still not completed. So, I mean, as far as Allegheny County, I think we need to focus on areas that are currently vacant and go from there, not residential areas. Thank you.
All righty. Our next question comes from Brian Gowans.
During this year's budget process, the county's finance director suggested that the incremental tax cuts the county has been implementing for several years now might be off the table next year because of a tighter fiscal picture. If elected, will you push for that reduction to continue?
Going first will be Creed Brody.
Absolutely. We started it 8 years ago, and we was told it absolutely could not be done, and it's only a small tax cut. Let's keep that in mind, but it still is a cut. But what it does is it keeps it from growing, and we've been the only county in the state of Maryland that's been able to do that. So absolutely, I would vote in favor of that again.
We go to the other end of the table, and Steve Wallet. Steve?
I would have to take a look at the details before I could make a decision. I mean, I really don't know right now. The only thing I can say, and everybody's talking about continuing to cut taxes. If you know anything about the value of the dollar is designed to be devalued to zero after 30 years. So in 30 years, to buy the same thing, you're going to need $2. And it actually devalues faster than that due to other economic issues. So at some point, and I can't say it's going to be soon, at some point you got to raise taxes to make up for that. The other thing with the infrastructure going on now, the price of steel is up 30%. So what are you going to do? You're going to raise taxes, or you reduce the amount of repairs you're going to make to the infrastructure. There's many things to look at, and I just couldn't make a decision on that right now.
All right, Jake Shade?
Well, I'd like to continue it, but we're going to have to see how the budget looks, obviously. I think it's important because it sets the tone that we want to keep taxes low. We'd like to cut them if possible. And it kind of sets the tone of this is how we view spending. You know, we want to keep our budget increases as small as possible. On average, we've kept it about 2%, which is about inflation, which for any government, that's just spectacular that we've been able to do that. In terms of the tax rate, it's basically the same level it is on property tax as it was in 1991, which, again, that's something that not many other jurisdictions can say. So obviously, as your assessment goes up, that's how the county gets more and more revenue with the assessable base. So it's not so much the rate as the assessable base. Thank you.
Over the past 4 years, have we won an economic development project because the tax rate is going down or is more competitive?
Well, and part of it's the residential rate. So I think you could definitely look at personal property and some other things. But let's be realistic. For all county residents, it's cumulatively about $40,000 a year, which when you add that up over several years, you're getting to about $400,000 total. Now per year that's being put back in people's pockets. So it's something, it's significant, but in terms of actually getting a business here, I don't think that's that specific tax rate is the one that's going to win over someone.
Okay. Michael Leptic.
I agree with Steve. I mean, it's difficult for me to say that at this point in time that, you know, we're going to raise taxes here, cut taxes there. I mean, I would have to look at the budget line by line to make sure that the programs that are being funded are funded adequately. They may be overly funded. I mean, it's not something that I can say at this point. However, you never want to raise taxes. I mean, that's the last resort. So if we can continue to cut them or even just reduce it to the point where we have a sustainable budget and our services are met and we're funding everything we can fund, then I say continue as we are. But like I said, as far as raising and cutting and this and that, I can't really answer that at this point. So thank you.
David Caporale.
I could support it if at all economically feasible. You know, no one can predict what the housing market's going to do. I mean, that's always been the issue, is the assessable base. So continuing to look at that going forward, possibly even a freeze and absolutely no increases.
All right, very good. We've reached another, I think I've gotten, you started off, right? Yeah, okay. On this question, Creed? Yeah, you did. Yeah, I think we're good. Yeah, we're at the another break point here in our live forum here from Allegheny College of Maryland on 1270 AM, 103.1 FM, and WCBCRadio.com, and our Facebook page via our friends at Allegany Media. We will continue with our program after this. 1270, FM 103.1, WCBCRadio.com, on our Facebook page with our friends from Allegany Media providing the video and audio on that source, and also providing a link on YouTube. So I think we have 5 platforms that we're operating on simultaneously. That may be a local record. We are still waiting for a couple of our candidates to return to the area, to the table up front. While we do that, we want to remind you that we have additional forums coming up. And if you're listening in early November, that does not make a lot of sense to you. But here in October, we do have an Allegheny County Board of Education candidate forum on Monday, October 15th from 5 to 7 p.m. A Cumberland City Council forum from 5 to 6:15 p.m., followed by a Cumberland mayoral candidate forum from 6:15 to 7 p.m. on Wednesday, October 17th. And on Monday, October 22nd, District 1A, 1B, and 1C delegate candidates will gather here from 5 until 7 p.m. We have our gang back together, and we have another question coming. And this time we're going to start in the middle of the table. And starting with the question will be Greg Larry from the Cumberland Times News. Greg?
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that. Gentlemen, I'd like to go back a little bit to Board of Education, the spending on education in general, and talk about that a little bit more specifically, if we could. In regard to spending on education, some say that it needs more funding, but other people have a different opinion. Some say that it's bloated. It's top-heavy. Enrollment is steadily declining. We lost 154. I think we're expected to lose this year, more than double last year's drop in enrollment. You also could see a lot of increases coming out of the Kerwin Commission. There could be more spending necessary on education. So some of you have said that you'd like to increase it, but when they come to ask for more money above and beyond the budget, how will you evaluate those requests to just establish whether you will honor those requests or whether you hold fast and keep the budget steady? How are you going to evaluate those requests for an increase in funding for education?
Michael Leptic, you go first.
Well, again, it goes back to the statement I made about the budget. I mean, I can't for say right now, we're going to cut this, we're going to cut that, we're going to raise this or raise that. I mean, I have to take a look at the budget, like line by line, to make sure that everything that is currently funded is funded properly, and make sure that it's something that needs to be funded. As far as education, I mean, I've said before that we have to take a look at the casino revenue, and we have to take a look at to see how those allocations are being met, and to make sure that if education is not being funded from that, that a portion goes to that and for supplemental funding. I mean, as far, like I said, as far as the budget, it's something that we have to take a look at it as a whole. And again, I can't make that statement at this point, but I just think we have a missing opportunity with the casino revenue, and the commissioners, from what I've read, have complete jurisdiction over where that funding goes. So it needs to be reallocated. Thank you.
All right, next we will go to Creed Brody Jr.
Question, Greg? Again?
Sure. Creed, when the board comes to ask you for increases in their budget, how will you evaluate that? Because I mean, some people say that they're underfunded. Other people say that they're a little bloated, top-heavy. Enrollment is declining. They're losing, I think, 155 students this year. So when they're asking you for additional money, how do you evaluate whether you want to hold fast to maintenance of effort, or go ahead and grant these increases?
Well, a lot of it actually does depend on the money we have. I'm going to be maintenance of effort. I'm just going to keep this. I thought we kind of straightened this up once. It's their employees are not. We are just a funding agent of the Board of Education. If I wanted to sit and go through their budget line by line, and I wanted to pick out what programs I think that they should use, what they shouldn't, then I would be running for the board. We just strictly fund them. So as far as extra money this year, and I'm going to say probably this one coming, they are down 150 students. They'll probably get flat funded. One thing that no one really does want to hear is when we took office 8 years ago, we was about 19th in the state as far as student funding levels per pupil. Right now we're 8th. So we've came from up 11 spots. We're heading towards the top, which I actually thought was really good considering. So as far as extra money, I'm just going to let go so I don't say something mean. So thank you.
Jake Shade, we'll go to you next.
Well, as someone who's been in the public school system semi-recently, in the last 10 years, it's something I take seriously. I still know a lot of people that work in the system, the teachers, some of the administrators, and they're all great people. I like Commissioner Brody said, we are a funding entity, but I'm happy to opine. I think that there's so much middle bureaucracy with the Board of Ed, people that are reporting out of Washington Street that are this coordinator or that coordinator or this director or whatever you want to call them, that aren't direct classroom teachers. And so that would be my advice to someone running for Board of Ed, is definitely take a look at that. Definitely take a look at what the county did in terms of buyouts, where you can get some of the higher paid employees retired and start bringing in newer people and get tremendous cost savings. And of course, the last thing would be the health insurance, which a lot of the Board of Education's year-to-year budget issues in the past couple of years have been because of health insurance spikes. So if we could expand that pool, if we could all kind of get with the same carrier, I think there would be some cost savings. Obviously, we don't know because it does involve several union negotiations, and it would be a big undertaking, but it can be done. Other places do it. In terms of the decline in enrollment, that's something that just because you lose 150 kids one year across the system, that doesn't equal, when you spread it across the whole district and the whole county, that doesn't mean we're going to close a school or you lay off a teacher. That's just not what it means. I think there's 20-some schools, so you might have 5 less kids per school. Some of the estimates, though, I think, at least for Allegany and I think system-wide, does have the enrollment increasing over the next decade or so. So, yeah, thank you.
And we go to Dave Caporale next.
I think first and foremost, I'd like to work to try and improve the environment. You know, I too know a lot of teachers. I know a lot of people on the board and people that are running for the board. You know, to be a working partner, to be able to negotiate. You know, there's always things that are going to work. There are going to be some things that just aren't going to work. I don't think it's one of those things that you can just throw money at and hope that something happens. Also, I think having a cost-effective and efficient plan going forward is what we need to look at.
Okay, Steve Wallet.
Well, I guess I have to agree with everybody, and the only thing I can really add to it is there's a lot of grants out there that they could be applying for to get more money for the school system. I don't know factually whether they apply for enough grants, and I would recommend they apply for grants and try and get the money and take some of the burden off the county.
You have split your time between here and Baltimore area. Have you seen grants that we should be looking into?
I have seen grants. I've looked. I can't tell you anything specific because I was looking for grants for the Lions Club, and I come across grants for everything.
Okay, thank you very much. Our next question will come from Brian Gowans, and the first answer this time around will come from Steve Wallet.
For many years, the belief was that the educated, qualified young people were leaving the area in large numbers because there were not enough good-paying jobs in the area. Now the data seems to suggest the opposite is true, that there's plenty of good-paying jobs, but workforce simply isn't qualified. What can the county do, in addition to what they've already been doing, to improve that situation?
Steve?
Well, you got the workforce development. I think that would do good, but I think the biggest problem with this whole issue is poverty. You got too many people that could be moving up, but they don't have the means to move up. They can't afford a car, they can't afford daycare, and I think if we can address that to get the people to the programs, we can take care of the problems. And I just see, down where I live, I just see too much of it.
Next will be Dave Caporale. Dave?
I've had an opportunity to attend some of the manufacturing roundtables over the past couple of years. How can we expand on that? You know, we have workforce development issues here. What do the manufacturers need? What do our employers need? What are they looking for? How can we fill that criteria, be it at the high school level or college level, so these people are ready to walk out the door upon graduation, fill the jobs at ATK, fill the jobs at IBM, American Woodmark, Hunter Douglas, and stay in our area, and as a result build our tax base. I think to continue to connect the dots and actually form a relationship with maybe more internships so these people have a working relationship with these companies even before graduation.
Very good. Coming up next will be Jake Shade.
Well, on this specifically, this is something that I've thought a lot about and read a lot about is this brain drain is what they call it. Young people leaving an area, going away to school and basically never coming back. It is a huge problem. Bloomberg ranked our Cumberland metro statistical area as one of the top areas for brain drain in the country. The unique part about our region compared to some of the others is you're exactly right. The jobs are there. IBM, Northrop Grumman, some of these other places, Exclamation Labs, you know, some of the smaller ones, they can't find people to fill these jobs. So it's not so much the jobs, but I think it's the pipeline isn't exactly there, and so there's two pieces. The one piece is we have such negative connotations of the sky is falling, nothing's ever going to get better, everything's going to be the same. You know, there's no high-tech jobs, there's no opportunity here, which is not true at all. And then the other thing is connecting people who go out of school, go out of town for school, and you have such a small window of a couple months of when they're looking for their first job. So making sure they're aware, you know, when they're in high school, when they're in early college, of there's a lot of opportunities here. Obviously, it's not going to be for everyone because some people just want to live in other areas, and that's fine. But if you want to come back to the county, if you want to come back to the area, we need to do much better in making sure people know what all's available.
Creed Brody.
I believe that communication is going to be the big key in this. You know, our new county administrator we hired to come over from the Department of Licensing and Labor, that was what Brandon did. And one of the first things he's done the first month in his new job was got everyone at the table, FSU, ACM, American Woodmart, Webster on. He's sitting down with everyone because he's trying to formulate what everybody wants, and he's trying to put it together. So, and he's not only trying, he is. Especially sitting here in ACM. You know, we're sitting here with someone that we have constant contact with to see what we need for a workforce. But right now, the county, for years, state of Maryland took care of this through the unemployment services. They're kind of not doing that no more. So the county's taking a lead on this. We're trying to fix this so that when you go on a website and you look for something, it's actually, you're going to put your information in, it's going to start directing you to these jobs that are available. Hopefully we can get those filled to get more in here. So thank you.
Very good. And Michael Leptic.
Workforce development is critical, especially in an area like ours. We do have a high poverty rate here, and unfortunately, a lot of times students that graduate high school, they can't afford to go on to higher education. So we need to figure out a way to transition students that want to go to college, give them the means and the vehicle to do so. But there are going to be some people that aren't going to go to college. They don't want to. They have no need. So really establishing a vocational training and programs that are going to transition our high school graduates into the workforce is imperative. And I think that if we work with Allegany College of Maryland, Frostburg State, and even the Board of Education to make sure that these programs are in place so these students can transition from high school into the workforce is critical. So I think that's really a plan that we need to move forward.
With our next question will be from the Cumberland Times News, Greg Larry. Greg?
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate that. Recently, the Secretary of Transportation for Maryland was here. I believe it was on Thursday last week. And the subject of the north-south highway connection came up through our community and the importance of that need. Senator Edwards spoke and said that look at the way it's transformed Hagerstown and Frederick, Winchester, Martinsburg, other communities having a good north-south access. Are you supportive of the north-south access that we're trying to pursue on U.S. Route 220? And also that subdivision, the Cumberland Chase subdivision, you think that's a positive step and the right way to go as far as developing a north-south connection?
All right, and to go first will be Creed Brody.
Yeah, absolutely. I was in favor of this. I actually spoke out at Bell Elementary, I don't know, about 6 or 7 years ago, and said it was absolutely essential for our area. We need a north-south highway and corridor. Of course, I got notified the next day in email by a bunch of people that they didn't think so, that they would rather see the county not have any roads in the north-south corridor. And then I had to start giving examples because they didn't believe that that's what drove Hagerstown. But you got to remember, clear back in the 50s, at the end of World War II, when Dwight David Eisenhower was president, the Appalachian Regional Commission is who laid out the infrastructure for the East Coast. And at that time, we were supposed to get, when 68 was put through, we were supposed to get a north-south exchange. 220 was supposed to be upgraded then. The money fell through. I see nothing but absolute benefits from that coming. So when we was looking at Cumberland Chase, yes, that absolutely was in the back of our mind. So.
Wanted to see how many homes Cumberland Chase would bring to the area. How many homes?
If it was built out completely, not including, there's still about 640 acres there that's for sale up on top, and about what we don't have, it's probably room out there for about 800 houses total. So, thank you.
Going next will be Michael Leptic.
I agree with Commissioner Brody. I think that it's an outstanding idea, and I think it's something that should have been looked at a long time ago. Any way we can attract people to come into our area, whether it's by that means or another means, is imperative. And I believe that it would really open up Allegheny County for future development, and it would give people an opportunity to see what we have to offer here as a community. And it's an outstanding idea. Thank you.
Steve Wallet, we'll go to you next.
Well, I have to agree with the last two, but it also raises a question for me, because we have Cumberland, which is a transportation hub with an interstate, a railroad, and an airport, and why isn't that attracting business and residents?
Next will be Dave Caporelli.
Yes, I would support this. I think it's one of the things that you always hear is on a short list when businesses are looking in your area. Look at recently the Procter & Gamble entity that's located in Martinsburg, and that whole hub going up and down 81. It's enormous. I don't think it's any question. How would you fund it? How would you get to the point of beginning it, and how would you get it approved is the biggest thing. We've heard a lot of talk about this for a number of years now. When will it really hit the pavement, so to speak? As far as Cumberland Chase goes, I do support it as well. I think it's addressing some of our housing deficiencies that I've been speaking about this evening as well. It also helps build our tax base here in Maryland, and it creates our own opportunities right here in Maryland too.
All right, Jake Shade.
Well, first on Cumberland Chase, we had the opportunity to keep all of that parcel together and really do something big for economic development that would be led by the private sector. But our part was stepping in and making sure it didn't get subdivided. We got a great deal on that, paid for through our economic development fund, so it wasn't like it was in the operating budget or anything. In terms of 220, it's very important. It would definitely help the region. It seems like we've fallen behind the 219 North connection for various reasons. I think Pennsylvania's been a little bit more aggressive than West Virginia's been, and all that kind of stuff. But we definitely need to keep working to get it in the pipeline of projects, because oftentimes once it becomes a priority and the state invests some money into it, that they're not likely to stop funding it. That they're going to keep working towards it. So they said the Tier 1 study was complete in 2014. They need to do a Tier 2. They don't seem to be dragging their feet on that. Part of that will actually be addressing where the route goes. So that's important. That's the next step. And I think that is the transportation project that Allegheny County is going to be advocating for the foreseeable future.
As we prepare for this event, we get input from a lot of different sources, and some people email us questions. Now, a lot of people will email us a single question from one of the candidates, and it's not fair for the others to answer. I have looked at the questions. We have 5 of them here, and they're all guaranteed to kind of make you squirm a little bit when you answer. So you can squirm while you answer and then laugh at the other guys while you're seeing them get the same treatment. And I'm going to these are all one-on-ones, and we'll start with Jake Shade. We all remember the Delfest battle over the 5-year contract, and you blamed the problem on Commissioner Valentine, which both he and promoter Stan Strickland disputed. Have you improved your relations with Stan, and with Valentine soon to be gone from the Board of Commissioners, will you continue to negotiate the promised second festival for 2019?
Well, happy to have a 5-year festival. I met Stan Strickland one time here at your signing that you had. That's the only time that I've ever met him. But I think it just got blown out of proportion, and you had people that were trying to make things out of stuff that wasn't actually an issue. So we're happy to have them here. It's great that they signed another 5-year contract, and I think they're very happy to be in Allegheny County, and in terms of their relationship with the staff that deals with them day to day.
What about that second festival?
What's that?
There's a proposal for a second
Yeah.
festival. Is that going to go forward? Is there?
I hope.
Okay.
Yeah. So the second festival, I think the plan for it is it for be downtown Cumberland, and absolutely we're happy to do whatever they ask to help make that a reality. So.
All right. Next will be Dave Caporelli. Dave, your record as a city councilman includes a 9.75% tax increase failing infrastructure and continued loss of a tax base. How will you have a different result as a county commissioner?
Thank you, Paul, for those nice comments.
See, I'm going to be shot as the messenger. Go ahead.
Well, I think when you're in these positions, you know, a lot of people, it's easy to sit back and criticize, but there's a lot of tough decisions to be made. You know, there were a lot of years that we thwarted off a tax increase while the assessable base was still declining. So I think the possibility of having a floating rate, essentially possibly you would be paying the same amount, however the rate could have been increased incrementally. But again, it comes down to tough decisions and a declining base. We are making efforts, as we talked about earlier, regarding rolling mill, et cetera, to try and increase our tax base. So there are efforts going to try and generate new revenue and keep the tax rate flat.
All right. Steve Wallet, you will go next. You're next in the frying pan. Steve, you have stated that 55% of the county workforce works outside of the county. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Our emailer says official numbers say that 30%, about 24,000, work outside the county, mostly in Mineral County, and about 9,500 people commute into Allegany County to work. The question is, where did you get your numbers, and do you believe them to be correct? I would imagine you believe them, or you
I
wouldn't have
got them
stated it.
off the internet. It's the demographics of Cumberland and Allegany County. I can't tell you the exact address. But if he wants to email me or send me through Messenger, I will get the website to him and let him read it.
You will send him the link.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Next will be Michael Leptic. Michael, you have stated that you have 2 master's degrees in psychology. Is that correct?
No, that's incorrect. I have 1 master's in psychology.
Okay. Where'd you get it from?
All my college degrees, I have an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and they came from distance education. The first one was from Ashworth College, and the master's degree came from North Central University, which is a regionally accredited institution. And I'm currently enrolled in a PhD program for addiction research, and that's at North Central University.
Okay. Are you doing this online then?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Very good. And let's see. Oh, we have one left. Creed Brody. You'll be making about 35 grand as a part-time commissioner because you work full-time at a job and you don't spend as much time as the other commissioners at the county office complex. Any dispute there? I give everybody a chance to dispute.
I'll dispute the pay.
Okay.
Boy, somewhere they've got a big raise that I didn't know about. But
What? Go ahead.
Okay.
They want to know, want you to explain your hours worked for the salary that you're going to get.
oh, okay. Well, that's pretty easy because I'm in touch 24 hours a day. I get a lot of my stuff done through the day, evenings, weekends, and I will make that. The commissioner, legally by law, the only thing you have to do is have 1 meeting a month. So anything you do above and beyond that's up to you. Now, I would say that each one of us probably have different set hours, different set board meetings, different set whatever. But I can assure you this, and my wife and family can back this up. I spend probably 40 to 50, 60 hours a week doing stuff for Allegany County as a commissioner. It just may be after 3:30, and it could be all day Saturday and all day Sunday. And so, no, and as far as being in touch with the office, I'm in touch. My office is on my side and is wherever I'm at every day. Even if I was retired, I still wouldn't go sit in a building all day.
Are you able to then address county business to whatever extent?
Oh, I
when
would
you get a
absolutely
call?
think so. I mean, there's 2 commissioners sitting here. I think that'd be put them on the spot and ask them that question.
Okay. Jake?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other important part to remember, being county commissioner, it's not like there's a set job or set hours. It's really whenever something comes up or whatever project you're working on. And so it's making a few good decisions a day or even a few very good decisions a week. That's kind of the importance. It's not so much sitting there in an office a set number of hours a day.
Let me morph that then into a general question for the panel here, and we'll go down to Steve at the other end, and Creed has already answered. How much time would you put into being a county commissioner in Allegheny County if elected?
I don't know. I can tell you as a union organizer, I was supposed to work 40 hours a week, and I was working 70 to 80 hours a week.
We do that in radio too. Jake, how about you?
Well, I think everyone has their different style. I make it a point to try to get into the building every single day. You know, there might be 1 or 2 days a month that I don't make it in for some portion. Commissioner Brody, he's on his phone. He's calling in all the time and able to contact people that way. But, you know, the emails, the calls, the community events, talking to people, that's nights, that's weekends, that's all the time. So it's hard to put a set time per week because it does vary.
Michael Leptic.
It's amazing to think that a part-time position pays $35,000 a year. But I mean, to answer the question, as much as it takes, I mean, this position is obviously time-consuming. There's a lot of responsibility. And it's obviously a position that you're on call 24 hours a day. So whatever it takes is what I'm going to put into it. I wouldn't have gotten on the campaign trail and filed to run for office if I wasn't committed to making Allegheny County better. Thank you.
Dave Caporale.
I work my schedule around my obligations. You know, me and Jake and Creed, we serve on various boards in the area as well. If a particular issue arises, like recently, I've been on the CSX meetings as well. So I think you put the time in when it's necessary. When the calling comes, you make the time and you spend the time.
Okay, very good. Go ahead, Creed.
Let me straighten this up here for just a second on the salary thing, because that's still kind of, it pays 30.
Okay.
Okay, we are, Allegheny County is the lowest paid commissioners between Garrett, Washington, Mineral. We're about 10 under Mineral, Somerset. If we're like a bull here, we're extremely, by far, the lowest paid of the bunch.
Is it going to go up?
It goes up $500 is what I think.
Okay.
But not $5,000 or $6,000 or nothing like that. So,
Okay.
Unless, like I say, unless we've got a raise that no one said.
Well, surprise. No. Very good. With our next question will be Brian Gowans, and I think this will be the last question from the panel.
Thank you, Paul. Allegheny County just recently retained the services of an outside firm to do an economic development strategic plan. Was this a good investment, and what do you expect to learn from this group that you couldn't learn from local economic development representatives?
Let's go to Dave Caporale on this one to kick us off. Dave?
I have been informed about this plan. I do support this plan. I would like to look at the results, you know, in a year's time, have a clear direction. Where do we want to be at that time? What have we accomplished? Have we met our goals? And then reevaluate from there. I think that it is necessary because these people are professionals. They're experts in their fields. A lot of our economic people, you know, they work on more local projects, et cetera, like that. But these people know how to work at these different trade shows. They know the contacts, and they know how to bring business to Allegheny County.
All right. Steve Wallet?
Well, I haven't seen the plan, so I would say when I get into office, I would have to look at it and ask questions and evaluate it and make a decision then.
Creed Brody?
Yeah, the plan's not done yet, but when we put it out, our intention is there's several different entities in the county that does economic development. Our intention was to hope to pull the resources from all seven, get an outside independent look at this, roll all of our studies into one and get everybody working in one direction, pulling the cart all the same direction. So that was our whole intention with this, because every little group has their strong suits, every little group has their weak suits. So we wanted to put everything together, pull everybody's strong suits, roll them all into one plan, and then go.
Jake Shade?
Well, the plan should be completed by February. Thomas P. Miller and Associates we hired, you know, I think sometimes we need some tough love. They do this all throughout the country, and they're going to be honest of these are the industries you have a realistic chance of attracting. These are the industries that we don't think you should focus on. And so I think that's important. The other thing that they're going to do for the first time in a long time, they're going to help us set goals and metrics and let us track the progress of economic development. You know, so often we have these projects and or we kind of move from one thing to the other. And, you know, you look back and all of a sudden 6 months has passed. And so being able to have that accountability, there's a lot of entities that do economic development or say they do economic development in Allegheny County. It seems like we get pulled in a lot of different ways. So to have one overarching vision and one overarching plan of these are the things that an outside group has said would have a real impact. This is the investment required. These are the staff required. I think it's very important, and that hopefully will be our guide for the next 5 years.
And Michael Leptic.
I have been vehemently opposed of outsourcing this plan to a company in Indiana. I think that the commissioners, the new county administrator should have come up with a plan to devise a committee that would put a plan into place. They know the county better than anybody. I mean, getting feedback from a outsourced company in Indiana about our area just seems counterproductive to me. I think we've had enough studies. I think it's time now for action. And I believe that should be the next priority is to put a plan of economic development in place so we have some direction for the future. Thank you.
Jake, you want to find a 30-second?
Sure, and I think this is the key. It's not just another study. It's not just pie in the sky. This will be the plan. This will set the priorities. This will give us some things of what to work to, which right now we don't have it. We you know it's just kind of day to day. This is the project of the quarter of the year, and then we'll kind of go. This is how other areas do it, and I think we could see big benefits of doing it this way.
All right, we're about to the end of the meeting in the evening, and I'd like to ask one final question as a wrap-up, kind of your closing statement, but to bring it into focus, what do you bring to the job of county commissioner that makes you different from the other four sitting with you right now? And we're going to start that question and a wrap-up with Michael Leptic. Michael?
This is the first time that I've ever considered running for office. I'm not a politician. I've lived in Allegheny County my entire life. And I think that bringing my skills that I've formulated through my business management experience, my academic experience, my security experience, I think it would be a good fit for the county. I have no aspirations of becoming a career politician. You know, I have one focus, and that's Allegheny County. I think that, you know, like I said, we're at a fork in the road. If we can continue down the same path, you know, where's it going to lead us? I mean, the county is not in very good shape at this point. But the fork in the road, we can try something different. We can, you know, elect new leaders that could put together a progressive vision to really push us forward. And that's what I'm bringing to the table. And I just don't know how we can continue in the same direction that we have been and think that the result's going to be any different, because it's not. Thank you.
Jake Shade, you're next.
Well, obviously, I think being younger than a lot of, not just other elected officials, but also the people that work there, it's been a double-edged sword, but I think it certainly has helped. You know, I think you come in with fresh eyes and new vision, and you're willing to try stuff and be more aggressive, especially in economic development, and kind of break through some of the stalemates that have existed for a long time. I think we all have our strengths, you know, in Commissioner Brody, you know, he's an expert on public works. That's his expertise. That's what he deals with. In terms of intergovernmental affairs and some of the economic development stuff, that's kind of what I work on. You know, I worked in Annapolis. I still have a lot of contacts there. It can be very helpful in things like Allegheny High School and some other state projects. You know, my other job, I work in insurance, and so I'm obviously interested in that and seeing if we can cut costs there. But I think the biggest fact is, if you have someone who's from here that knows this area can succeed and do better than what it is, I'm your guy, and that's really why I'm running. You know, I think we can do better. I think the opportunity's there. We just have to have the team in place and the vision to do it. Thank you.
Creed Brody Jr.
I'm going to say what I bring to the table is what I've brought to the table for the last 8 years. There's not a whole lot of fluff to me. I'm pretty straight up. I had no intentions of ever running for office, and I got kind of asked, and it ended up formulated into a bet, and I actually did it, and here I sit.
Did you win or lose the bet?
I guess that would depend on who you would ask at what time of the day, and if you'd ask my wife, she would probably tell you that I lost the bet. But the main thing I bring to the table is my whole background for the last 40 years has been in public works, water, roads, sewers. The Public Works Department of Allegany County is the largest department in the county, even though it's not all the glory, and it doesn't get all the accolades in the paper, and it doesn't get the big news stories and this and that, but it's what people have to survive every day. Water and sewer. It's not a real fun topic, but if you don't have it, you surely miss it. So if I get back in again, I'm going to go right back to, I would say my next 4 would be just like my last ones have been. I won't change. I'll just continue to be who I am. So thanks, Paul.
Thank you. Next will be Steve Wallet. Steve?
Well, I got a background in construction. I was running multi-million-dollar jobs in different industries, car manufacturing, nuclear, steel mills, hospitals. Done just about everything from wire a doghouse to a nuclear reactor. And I was a maintenance supervisor in a hospital for a few years. And I was a union organizer and assistant business agent. And I got my start in this in poverty. I knew what people have to go through to get out of poverty. I was divorced, had 1 child, had custody, and it was hard to go to school at night and go to work and raise a child and find support to watch the kid, to pay for daycare, to buy a car. People just don't realize how hard that is. And I've done it. I know what some of the people in this county are going through, and I'd like to do what I can to help them, and give a plug to one of the groups that I think is doing a lot to help, and that's Bridges to Opportunity.
All right. And finally, Dave Camporale.
I'd have to say experience, business experience, managing a business, doing a payroll. I've been doing it all my life since I could walk to the bakery after school, working the cash register. 6 years of public service, networking from here to Annapolis. I don't think that you just walk into these jobs and have the connections and know the people that you need to know to get the job done. And I also want to add, and I've said this a lot on this campaign, it's about working together. It's about the city, the county, the municipalities, and the state all working together for a common goal. And I don't know if we've been doing that, and I think it's time. I think we can achieve that.
All right, that will conclude our forum here on the Allegany County Commissioner position. 3 will be elected. We've heard from 5 here this evening. And gentlemen, I think you all explained your positions very well. I appreciate the time you've given us, and we appreciate the time our listeners have given to us as well. For AM 1270 WCBC, FM 103.1, WCBCRadio.com, WCBC Radio YouTube, and also our Facebook page. I'd like to thank our videographer and producer here this evening, Ryan Brenneman from Allegany Media. Also, Marty White from our staff for coordinating all of our technical arrangements as well. For all of us here this evening, thank you and have a good evening.